Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, May 28th, 2021. I am Dave Biddle. I am very happy joined by Jonah Booker for his usual Friday visit. All right, J-Book, let's get into this massive news dump from the other day. I mean, my gosh, Ohio State released like a ton of information from this Freedom of Information Act. We'll get into like all the high points, but what kind of jumps out to you the most?
The thing that really stands out to me the most was how Ohio State, from top to bottom, were all on the same page, from the president to Gene Smith to Ryan Day. When we look back, Ohio State had it in their mind they wanted to play. And you had other schools in the Big Ten, and a lot of people pretty much know who those schools are, didn't want to play. And the fact that Ohio State was looking to potentially go independent and break away from the Big Ten for a year, I thought that was extremely fascinating. But the main thing for me is it really gives you a sense of encouragement to know from the top down at Ohio State, all parties are rowing in the same direction.
Yeah, there's so many interesting things that come out of this. I mean, my goodness. I mean, the conversations between Gene Smith and President Johnson, and they both come out of here looking like incredibly good, in my opinion, especially Dr. Kristina Johnson. Let's start with the idea that Ohio State was fully ready to go independent just for the 1 year. For the listeners out there, they were not talking about breaking away from the Big Ten permanently, but just for 2020, with it being as weird as it was and a lot of schools not wanting to play, Ohio State was absolutely ready to go indie for that 1 year, go independent. And, you know, and they're just like you said, they were in lockstep. Ryan Day, Gene Smith, Kristina Johnson, they were all like, can we do this? The Big Ten stonewalled them. I found that very interesting.
Yeah, and I remember Ryan Day, I believe he, in one of his press conference, kind of threw that nugget out there, and a lot of networks went wild thinking like, oh my goodness, Ohio State's thinking about going independent. But I love it. I love the fact that it was initiated by the president of the university. She was trying to explore all options in order to get these boys back on the playing field. They were trying to avoid as many landmines that the Big Ten was throwing at them. But if Ohio State was able to go independent for 1 year, it would have been glorious. I mean, it'd have been must-see TV, because if you could get Ohio State playing, you know, down in the SEC or playing BYU with Zach Wilson at the time, or, you know, going out west to the West Coast and just breaking away from the Big Ten and doing their own thing, it really would have put a ginormous spotlight on the Big Ten Conference, because in my eyes, the Big Ten needs Ohio State more than Ohio State needs the Big Ten. And if Ohio State really would have pulled out the big stick and start whipping it around, and they were really serious about that, which it sounds like they were, I think it really would have pushed the ball forward even a lot quicker than what we were hoping. The thing that was holding Ohio State back, as Gene mentioned, was the contracts that Ohio State was tied into with Fox and the Big Ten Network, and how those obligations would have played out in the legal world. But the fact that Ohio State was really taking it serious and wanted to go that route tells me that by any means necessary, they were looking to try to play football.
And we're going to talk a lot more about this. Before I forget, I want to let everybody know out there that's listening to the show on YouTube, very soon, if you haven't seen already, we're going to move the show to our new Bucknuts/247 Sports YouTube channel. It's just been on my YouTube channel for a while. We're going to move it to our new Bucknuts 247 Sports YouTube channel. So you can just do a search for that and it will come up. So make sure you subscribe to our new YouTube channel if you get a chance. Thank you very much for doing that. All right. So this just goes to show, J-Book, this whole situation. And even now, it's not just fans. It's behind the scenes, the higher of the higher-ups, Gene Smith, Dr. Johnson, Ryan Day, all saying basically the same thing the fans were saying. And it just leads me to believe that football just means more at Ohio State than it does at, you know, any other Big Ten school, and it's really not close. I guess I shouldn't say that. Nebraska and Iowa, they're not on Ohio State's level as far as like, quality of football, but they might have the same passion that we do. But man, it just goes to show the different level of passion from Ohio State and maybe a couple other schools in the Big Ten, and then pretty much the entire SEC and a lot of the ACC.
Right. And it just tells me that Ohio State is all in. And the thing that you have to really love as an Ohio State fan is I do not believe this would have been the case if Michael Drake was still the president. I think he would have bowed out gracefully. I do not think he'd have went to bat like Kristina Johnson did for the football team. I mean, how many meetings does Gene Smith and calls did he have a day? I mean, if you look at those text messages, Gene Smith was on a call, every 30 minutes to the hour discussing this. And if you look at those texts that was dropped, it just shows the disgust from Ohio State side when it came to the Big Ten, some of their colleagues, as well as Kevin Warren. And you talk about Nebraska and Iowa and their passion to play. And those programs may not be national contenders, but they have a passion for the game. They want to play. They have a rabid fan base that wanted to see their football teams playing. And I truly believe, Dave, if you look at Ohio State and Michigan, I believe it's you have two programs that have been going in the opposite direction for years now. And one of the reasons I truly believe that is because of the culture at Michigan is not all in compared to Ohio State. Ohio State, they are all, as I mentioned, going in the same direction, from the president to the AD to the admission to the support staff. When you look at Michigan, you have a president who was really pushing not to play football. Jim Harbaugh came out and said that he hadn't even heard from his own president for 2 months, had no idea what was going on there. You see what type of disaster of a season that they had when, the players wanted to play, the coaches wanted to play, the ADs kind of stuck in between. President doesn't want to play. It was pretty much telling Jimmy to sit down and shut up and you go coach football and I handle being the president of the university, with him being a former doctor. And I think when it comes to Michigan, until everybody is on the same page, that's not a good job. They can hire Matt Campbell, they can hire the next up and coming star, but until they have the mindset to be a big boy like Ohio State, where you're getting everybody on the same page, it doesn't matter who the coach is up in Michigan. And they stick out like a sore thumb because everyone knows that Michigan, they want to play football. Michigan State was even calling them out on it, and several other programs. But as these texts, get revealed, it just truly shows that Kevin Warren did not have an appetite to play. They were pushing for the spring, and then, they didn't believe that the parents were legit when Ohio State parents were sending out the letter. Kevin Warren didn't. That just really looks bad on his part.
Yeah, that looks really bad. Yeah, his only appetite is for destruction. I mean, the fact that he thought that was a manufactured letter from Ohio State's parents, it's like, and Gene Smith and Dr. Johnson were flummoxed that he doesn't believe this is genuine. And let's get into Dr. Kristina Johnson for a second. A lot of Buckeye fans jumped the gun on that, jumped to conclusions about her, acted like she's this, she's that, she's against football. Turns out the exact opposite is true. I don't think enough people looked into her background. She was a very good athlete growing up, grew up in a sports-loving family. She went to Stanford, was on the field hockey team, was so good that she was trying out for the Olympic team and probably would have made it if not for getting injured or having an illness, I think it was. She started the lacrosse program at Stanford, the women's lacrosse program. It was a club team when she started it herself. Now, of course, it's a varsity program. Her grandfather played football for Ohio State. It's like, I know somebody on our board bumped the thread when after she was hired. I'm sure you saw this with everybody.
Yeah.
Like half the people in there like ripping on her and saying, oh, another terrible hire. And listen, I do want to be clear about this. I get it. I get that Buckeye fans have been scarred by Michael Drake and you're like, already like, oh no. But like, it's crazy how many people jump to conclusions about her, and it's like the 180, man. She's all about football. I really like her, and this makes her look incredibly good.
Yep. And I'll tell you two things that really kind of got Ohio State on the edge of their seat was one, if you remember, it was a power transition coming from Michael Drake to Kristina Johnson. So when a lot of this was going down, she wasn't necessarily fully engaged as Ohio State president. The transition was happening. So a lot of those initial calls with the Big Ten, people were saying Ohio State didn't have anyone on the call. So there were a lot of back and forth and a lot of decisions being made, and people were upset saying, where's the leadership at Ohio State? Where's this president at? Like these schools like Rutgers and Maryland are making decisions on behalf of Ohio State, and we don't have anyone in there fighting on our behalf. So that agitated a lot of fans. Now, as things progressed and the talk started, she was obviously in those meetings, on those calls, and then a lot of people will point to, we won't say who it is in another site, but a main prominent Ohio State, insider was throwing out there that she was totally against the football program. A lot of people took that and ran with it, and it carried over from a variety of message boards. But as you look back, people are doing a 180 because I think she has really engraved herself into the good nature of Ohio State fans going forward, Dave, because they can't, unless she does something drastic, there's nothing that Ohio State fans can say going forward about her that will indicate that she's not all in for the football program. And I think she's going to have a smooth sailing as the Ohio State president. Obviously, the university and is much bigger as a whole than the actual football program. But to have someone in that type of leadership role who's willing to go to bat for their football program, it speaks loudly, and it will sit extremely well with the fan base for many years to come.
All right, last thing, Jonah. I have talked a lot about name, image, and likeness on the show this week. We had G. Scott Sr. on the show Monday. Bax, his usual visit on Wednesday. I have not talked to you about this. I just want to get your general impressions on name, image, and likeness coming to college football. How do you think this will impact things? Are you a fan of it? Just your general impressions of this.
I'm a fan of it. Not too long ago, I had a call, probably about an hour and a half call with someone who's been on the conference calls with Ohio State when it comes to discussing the name, image, and likeness and the NFTs. And basically, where Ohio State stands is Ohio State is all in when it comes to the name, image, and likeness. They're going to make it extremely player friendly. It's going to be an absolute game changer because you're going to be able to use that as a recruiting tool when you're out there pitching to a five-star kid. You can say, hey, look what our guys are doing here at Ohio State. Look at the platforms that we're providing for them as an on-ramp to help, put money in their pocket. You look at the social media engagement, which is going to be huge when it comes to name, image, and likeness. If you can get your followers up on Instagram and Twitter and things of that nature, then it actually increases your value and your net worth as far as as a player, as long as you can perform at a high level on the field. And you look at some of the guys that they have there now, a lot of those players already have ideas in place. There's going to be a lot of nuances behind the scenes that needs to take place when it comes to tax purposes, attorneys to make sure that contracts are legit and is ran through compliance at Ohio State. But this is going to be something that is going to be big time ingrained into college football. And I'll give the listeners an example. Let's say Ohio State is in a battle with a five-star kid and it's down to Ohio State and let's say Clemson. And Ohio State is neck and neck. The kid he doesn't know where he wants to go. And Ohio State's picking name, image, and likeness. And if Ohio State players are making a significant amount of money because of the Columbus area, as opposed to a rural area in Clemson, that can play heavily, and that's being discussed internally at Ohio State. Is being discussed as well as many other schools. Is how can you use that as a recruiting pitch, and then also it's going to increase position hires, because if you see the graphics and guys being able to use their NFTs in the future, meaning that let's say a Chris Olave's catch against Clemson in the playoffs, that if that 30-second clip is valuable, how would that money be recouped? Will it go to Chris Olave and part of it go to Ohio State? Because that 30-second moment could be traded as a digital card to fans. That is a valuable asset. And those are some of the things that are being discussed, because it's a whole new wave of futures. And there's some people that's familiar with NBA Top Shot. And basically NBA Top Shot is it's like a digital moment, meaning that a LeBron James dunk, it could be worth $15,000 just for that 5-second clip of LeBron James dunking, and that money goes to the NBA players. Now, college football is going to start transitioning into that as well, but they don't know how they're going to be able to distribute it just yet, because it is Chris Olave in Ohio State jersey, but he is the one physically making the catch. So does part of the revenue go to Ohio State and part of it go to Chris Olave? But those are a lot of things that are in play that nobody really knows how it's going to finally play out. But the fact that Ohio State is already out front, they've been working on the name, image, and likeness and NFTs for months now with their attorneys and a lot of guys on the background. So they're ready to go. They just need to make sure that everything is ran through compliance, and their attorneys and the players are getting the right counsel and representation. You're going to start seeing players coming out with clothing lines pretty soon. You're going to see players locally in commercials, and they're going to try to create as much wealth and revenue for their players, because in the end, if you're getting your players paid legally through the system, then that's going to benefit you when you're pitching that to recruits and say, hey, you may not make it to the NFL, but we can give you every opportunity to make some extra money while you're here at Ohio State, as well as getting your degree here. So it's going to be big, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Well, good luck to these young men competing with my clothing line, though. I mean, I wish them well. No, great insights. I mean, you laid it out very well. I think a lot of listeners might be rewinding about 3 minutes to listen to everything you just said again. That was great stuff. You outlined it very well. Great insights, as always, from Jonah Booker. Thank you very much, Jay Book. Thank you to all listeners out there for tuning in the show. We appreciate that very much. Hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend. Let's hear the Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.